Hey, Dr. Shefali.
Hey, Greta.
So today's Get Real question actually comes from me. And I'm just wondering, what is going on with the Catholic Church abuse scandal? And what advice, if any, would you offer to the Pope?
Well, I have to say that's a great question, and it's one that I think deserves a really thoughtful answer. So, if the Pope were to call me, I think I would first, like I do with every family, encourage those in charge. So, I would encourage him to look at this not in a defensive, personal way. It's not about this religion against that religion or one person against another. It's an invitation for the Pope to look at this systemically. And just as I do with parents, to encourage them with an attitude of non-defensiveness, to have the courage to topple down old paradigms, to see what's not working, to examine if we're doing things just because of our attachment to an archaic way of being. And I think it may be the case in this debacle that's occurring, that we need to look at it as if there is a deep wound, a schism that is the pus in the system that needs to be healed, just like I do with a family. And when there is a wound, then we need to examine what is the cause of this wound. And typically the wound occurs in a family from the hierarchy, from the top down. And there is a misalignment of power. There is a hypocrisy of intention. There is a misembodiment between word and action. And this creates a violence against the liberation and sovereignty of the rights of children, as is happening here as well. So I always tell parents, yes, apology is great, but then we have to show with determination, with perseverance, a change in consciousness. So were I the Pope or someone in charge, I would, as a symbol of the atonement, as a symbol of the desire to change, I would shut things down. I would shut the Vatican down for months to demonstrate that change is occurring, that healing is taking place. And I do this with families. When red flag behaviors occur, I tell families that the system needs to change, meaning everything old needs to stop and healing needs to take place. The parents have to go on a retreat, or the entire family, or they go for counseling. Some change needs to occur to show that the reparative process has begun. So in this case, all those involved in the denial system, all those involved in the abuse would go get healing, would go get reparation, would go get education, right? There would be an examination of how celibacy affects this kind of sexual perversion, this kind of violent outbreak. And there would be concerted attempts to educate the priesthood, to change the attitudes towards sexuality. Perhaps, the entire issue of celibacy needs to be relooked at. Perhaps it's against our biological nature, and perhaps this is what's causing this kind of misalignment. I would also encourage the Pope, of course I would, to re-examine this segregation of gender, to invite women into the organization. Perhaps that's what this may be the time for, where women, with the onus we bring on emotional connectivity, may be the addition that this entire organization is sorely missing. And then finally, I would look at the coffers of the Vatican, of the Church, of this organization, and dedicate its energy toward the healing of the victims and their families for generations to come, because this will not be erased anytime soon. The pain that this pain is causing will last for generations. So that is a holistic, deep, profound attempt at change. It requires a complete attitudinal shift. It requires deep healing, removal of denial, a shutting down of the old and an invitation of the new, re-looking at the old archaic paradigms of why women are not involved, rethinking celibacy, and then really realigning and rededicating the coffers toward true education, sex education, opening the paradigm to the current era, and really healing those who have been victims and should never have been.